give you the first question, and then I've got several.
Very good. Well, Elder Hill, you first got interested in Church of God in Christ history in a significant way when you, I believe, discovered the collection of Lizzie Robinson. Was that right?
Certainly.
Could you tell us more about your growing interest in Lizzie Robinson?
Yeah. Kind of my pathway, started with history, mainly under our local organization, and our presiding bishop probably 4 presiding bishops back. I think you talk about the Patterson collection, but Patterson succeeded Mason basically, and then Bishop Ford came to Omaha, to our hometown, and held a press conference in 1990, and he had all these people from all over at the press conference, and he said, well, Omaha can do more to help us with our history than any city in America. And all of us Omahans were saying, how's that? Right in the middle of the United States. We don't have nothing here, And that's kind of what our attitude was. But then he began to talk about Lizzie Robinson, her being the first women's department organizer in 1911, and how she lived in Omaha for 30-something years, and how he used to come and visit her, and she was just so key to Bishop Mason's organization of Church of God in Christ. And so we were just shocked when he began to dove in how important she was, because she had died in 1945. So we had this press conference almost, 50 years later. So some of the history was kind of far removed from us. So my bishop said, well, Elder Hill, can you do some research? Because we were kind of far removed from the history. Like, what? Okay. So we began to really dove into it and research her history, and found out how significant she was as a humanitarian. So what ended up happening, I did a research on her life, and I began to dig up a lot of documents and things that proved where she was and her being there. And we ended up getting her and her husband started the first Church of God in Christ in Omaha, Nebraska in 1916, and I ended up getting that church put on the local landmark Heritage Preservation Commission to preserve it. And then the next step was I ended up writing a federal nomination to show her significance, not so much with religion, but from the angle of a humanitarian, and how she worked with women and women development and, economic development. I kind of came from that angle to the secular world, and boy, they just loved it. Whoa, we didn't know. And she had global reach, and she sent missionaries all over the world from Omaha, and she raised all the money to supply this global ministry. And I ended up finding out, and this is just the State Historical Society they were so flabbergasted, that she actually was the one that came to Bishop Mason about extending COGIC beyond the shores of the United States. And she came up with the concept. And so he said, well, he was so confident in her work, he said, well, okay, we can do it, but it's for you to do it. So the women handled missions, even as large as we are with missions, but the women handled missions for years. And they funded it, they supported it, and so they sent women all over the world. China, Africa, in the islands, we populated that and what have you. And the women, they built churches, they built clinics and dormitories and just all kinds of things. And so she held a very, very significant role, in the church. And that's kind of where my journey started evolving. From there, I ended up getting a street named after her in Nebraska, 1992. The community was just flabbergasted. They said, well, she's almost comparable to Father Flanagan when it comes to humanitarian works. We didn't know we had a person in our midst like that. So they just really embraced it. They ended up giving her a street name, actually, in Nebraska. The first woman to get a street name in the state of Nebraska. So it's pretty interesting. Ended up writing a biography on her, later on. And here lately, I wrote a book on Azusa, on William Seymour, a biography on him during the 100-year celebration, and getting ready to release a book on Bishop Mason, the founder of the Church of God in Christ. So kind of kept going with that journey. We never knew we was going to go this route, but it kind of kept happening, so we kept walking.